Hello everyone! Welcome back to this game! So here we are in the big old library in the Ring District, specifically the Blue section. I apparently missed this place earlier. There might be a bunch of books to read here, so I am of course going to take the opportunity to try to read them, after talking to the librarian. Welcome to the Blue Library. Probably the only notable thing in this district. What about the cathedral? Who wrote all these books? Most authors nowadays prefer to remain anonymous, given that many prefer to write texts of a more religious nature. Any ideas that contradict others' worldviews wouldn't be exactly good for that writer's health, if you catch my meaning. In case you're still curious, though, there is a rumor floating around that a certain author is making her way here, although I couldn't tell you what she wrote. Interesting. Foreshadowing? Can I take anything? No. Thought I'd ask. Okay, let's get started. Doctrines of Holy Four. Already read that one. Very curious what the deal with these are. I'll save them for last. Strange bestiary, the Geiken. Alright. In the west is the land of the most devoted, the followers of the winged prophet, the ones who live under the watchful eye of Lady Liquia herself. But more recently, there have been rumors of a host of cultist worshippers of the most vile kind, followers of the Grey. And it is perhaps with this skewed point of view that has given them the ability to take control of what was once a beautiful creature, the Geiken. Oh, those giant birds. Oh, so they control them. That's why they were suddenly trying to attack us. Before their corruption, the Geiken were docile, if imposing, avians that protected Lake Varus from those willing to do it harm. Historians have claimed that these winged creatures were once the followers of the winged prophet themselves, according to powerful beings represented in ascending to powerful beings representing Liquia's beauty as stated in the doctrines. But with the formation of the Geiken, they have fallen from grace and become the brutish slaves to protect their interests, rather than Lady Liquia's. In the similarly in nomenclature, a coincidence? I don't know. Many would argue not. But the Geiken worship is indeed the Grey itself. But the prefix Gai supposedly comes from a word derived from the language the creatures in the east, the Yurak, use, meaning learned, or perhaps even taught. Sources claim then that the Geiken are evolved specimens of a now extinct type of bird called the Fanto, which should explain their names now. As for what Cole means, it is less defined and not to be covered here. It is a shame that such beauty be marred by a poor understanding of what makes our world function, but such is the way of the winged prophet's teachings. Entropy must come in infinite forms, for the world is infinite. Change is infinite, and should the Geiken represent the beginning of this change, the guardians of the sacred Lake Varus, then we, as devout humans, must accept and learn from what this change could mean. So this was definitely an informative book. So the Geiken actually worship the Grey? As a reminder, the Grey is essentially the devil and is responsible for the creation of certain monsters that roam this world. So then why would they want to kill me, the Coal Rod? I guess the devil is not at all interested in the world ending. Rise of the Great Uniter. Did I read this one? I think I did. Yeah. I think I did. Certainly read that one. That was a good one. Wing Prophet and the Philosophy of Duality. Is this the one that I just read earlier? Yeah. Beauty of the Bloom. What is mana? Good question. Often one of the most complex subjects in modern philosophy and science, mana, aka magic, energy, spirit, etc., is, at the most fundamental level, the connection one has with the four goddesses. It is a primal energy that allows for all life, matter, and ideas to exist. In many ways, it serves as the blueprint for the goddesses to manipulate our world as they see fit. World manipulation, however, is not exclusive to said creators. It also comes naturally to humankind. For other species, it is only possible with outside points of focus, such as the Kythian bloom or a spring of Pleius. With expert use in manipulating mana, one can use imbued objects, that is to say, tools that have been blessed by one of the Holy Four, to augment their own will and bend the world to their choosing. Staves are a prime example of this. For some, such objects are not needed. Those with Lady Lasha's blessing have been known to be able to move their own physical beings to various points across the earth, teleporting, and those with Aris's blessing are capable of utilizing the air around them to pass through it in any direction. Flight. That sounds convenient. As the four goddesses created our world for humankind, such manipulations are a gift we must treasure and never take for granted. Mana is a sacred subject, but refusing to utilize it is nonsensical. It would be similar to refusing to use your limbs to perform basic tasks. Well, if I had magic, I definitely would not be taking it for granted. I would actually be abusing it. Images. Have I read about images? I should really consider writing down the names of all the books I have read. No, I don't recognize any of it, so let's see here. So images are one of the creatures that the Grey has created. Discovered only as recently as the Northern Event, the image is a demonic creation of the Grey intended to mock the forms of the four goddesses, and most specifically of Lady Hetrana herself, known as the Melting Image. Completely hostile to all not in the service of the Grey, this blasphemous monstrosity uses a mocking fire to eviscerate all in its path. I feel like we've seen this thing before. But perhaps even more unsettling is the fact that it is cognizant enough to utilize other servants as allies, healing itself and others from afar to create even more of a hazard for any who are unlucky enough to cross it. Studies have indicated that prolonged exposure to an image has caused these other servants to become more protective of their benefactor, increasing the danger that the Kith might not be alone in having limited sentience. Further research has also indicated a second form of the creature known as the Frozen Image. This is mostly conjecture, however, as it's only based on observing that for most of the Grey servants, snowtop variations exist. The ice slime, green birdling, etc. No record has indicated its existence, though, so it is likely they only exist in hot areas, much like the red birdlings. While dangerous, it is imperative that all images encountered be killed. Mockery of the Holy Four is not to be allowed, lest we lose faith and the Grey take hold. Orgaia says that we found a few of them in the volcano. So, not really who I was thinking of specifically. The Varsish? Yeah, we read that one. The Varus Blossom? The goddesses Liquia and Lasha had pulled their divine will to create the plant life that covers the majority of our world. Now, this definitely sounds familiar. It's logical then to assume that the Grey would attempt to corrupt something so ubiquitous. This is the creature we know as the Varus Blossom, named for its discovery by the High Priest Varus and their native territory. This sentient plant is considered hostile to everything not under the influence of the Grey. Curiously, it completely ignores creatures such as the Kith or Varsish. When in the presence of anything else, however, it pulls from its recesses of Lady Lasha's imbuement and hurls massive boulders at its prey, more than making up for its lack of motor skills. No, we didn't read about this. We've seen them, though. Interestingly enough, though, witnesses have claimed that the blossom is not truly tethered to the ground as one would find in other plant life, and is capable of being easily moved if need be. No explanations have been provided, however. Studying the creature has yielded no fruitful results over the centuries it has existed in Pleius. Once killed, the Varus Blossom reverts to a normal plant, and any signs of prior sentience is virtually nil. Much rarer, but similar in build, is his cousin, the Snow Blossom. Less is known about how such a specimen came into existence, but it is theorized that the blossoms once lived in the Cairns Highlands while they were still vegetated before the Northern Event. Following this massive change, the blossoms there evolved into more volatile creatures. It goes without saying that despite its incapacity to move from the spot one would see it in, it is not to be considered less dangerous. Nothing the Grey has in its servitude is without its threat. So aside from being the creation of evil, this definitely seems like a pretty interesting monster, given that it is sentient. Imagine being a plant, and knowing you're a plant, having sentience, and that sort of thing, but you're always stuck in one place. But on the bright side, at least you can summon boulders. Maybe you can play a game of tic-tac-toe with the other nearby plants. Broodlings? Yes, read that one. The Kith, read that one. Slime, read that one. And read that one. That book on the table there, I'm saving for last. Well, these really are most of the books in the game. Alright. You know, this kind of reminds me of an earlier game I played a few years back. No, what was it called? Orion something. It started with an O. And there was one part where I read a rather lengthy book, but because I was on stream at the time, I chose not to read it, and instead did it off camera and uploaded it later on its own. Not really feeling like doing that now. I'm kind of interested in seeing what these books are, and I have things to comment, and who knows, we might all learn something of interest. So are all of these going to be the history of Pleius? Apparently. Might have been a good idea to wait until now to read these books then. Oh well. I've already read some of these history books out of order. Unfortunate. I think I read this one. Have I read about Ring? Well, let's see here. One cannot refer to Pleius without thinking of the magnificent gem of which defines the entire country, its great capital of Ring. Possibly as efficient as a country all to its own, Ring dominates much of the landscape and overlooks its entire domain. It is, as many would say, the final stop for all who seek glory and security. Well, we're definitely not doing that, so this is not going to be our final stop. Founded by Queen Hitora I and her high priest Kinis, Ring once started as a simple fortress to stand against the desert-dwelling bandits and monstrous servants of the Grey. People from all over the world heard of this legendary sanctuary and rushed to find shelter within its walls. The journey itself became a pilgrimage. The name Ring comes from Hitora's original plan for the city's design, a grand fortress of a city, walled, dividing its people from the outside threats and mysteries. This design would not find physical form until the rise of the Great Uniter, following the Northern Event which decimated much of Ring's previous incarnation. It was the Great Uniter, Daphnis, who gave Ring its second meaning, acting as an abbreviation for the four goddesses: red, indigo, blue and violet, and green. I definitely remember reading that, but I think it was like a guard who told us about that or something. This was due to the city's division into its 4 districts, all of which are microcosms of the land proper, in order to pay even more homage to the goddesses who make all of this possible. Queen Hitora I's vision, after many bloody centuries, finally became a reality in this generation, but it was not without strife. Early on in Ring's construction, she had an even wider vision, one to conquer all of Pleius. This, of course, is where her high priest, Canis, gained his fame, claiming the, at the time, southern paradise of the Canis Highlands, which is the subject of Volume 2. Did I read this one? Following the wake of Queen Hitora I's assassination, Pleiadian expansion was halted for many decades. It wasn't until the High Priest Varus brought with her a contingent of devotees to attempt a blessing of the vast lake in the west. Between monstrous man-eating plants and human-sized arachnids, Varus and her people were faced with nothing but danger. But it was the will of Liquia to allow them passage, and thus began the second expansion. The sitting ruler at the time, King Milary I, positioned soldiers in the area and started the very first settlement. Much of the hostile wildlife had been culled very quickly, and the lake had become a paradise for devout followers of the Holy Four. As many know, it was here where the winged prophet was born and began her teaching of the philosophy of duality. Of course, this is also the land which begat the formation of the Geiken, but information on this secluded organization has been sanctioned off and must be reviewed in alternative text. No boy. Despite being a veritable paradise, trekking to and from the lake was only made difficult by what separated it, Ring, and the highlands, the Ring Deserts, which is the subject of the next volume. Alright. Pleius Deserts. As we will talk about in the next volume, the frozen tundras of Snowtop. That one I definitely know we did not read about. I've been very curious about it. What is there to say about Snowtop that many don't already associate with it? It is a land shrouded in utter mystery, lending credence to the idea that Lady Aris herself is the silent goddess. Once located in the north, it was home to many small settlements constructed during the wake of the winged goddess. This is the cause of much consternation. It is difficult to believe that Snowtop had been a cultured land for only 60 years before the northern event. Before the prophet's conquest, Snowtop was only known as an icy taiga, distant from the strife of the mainland. Explorers and pilgrims would travel its frozen landscape for spiritual reasons, to follow what Lady Aris teaches us in her doctrine. Following the northern event, however, all of this was lost. For reasons unknown to even the most high-minded scholar, Snowtop remains impassable, forever adhesed to the south, to be forbidden to all. So this is a place that somehow got moved from the north to the south, somehow. That would be quite an event to cause that. The natives of Snowtop have always been few in number, but now can be counted on a pair of hands. How many fingers are we talking? They are distinct in appearance. Pale skin, lightly colored hair, and a rough demeanor that precludes proper social etiquette. Whatever lies in the sleeping land to the south might always be unknowable, as the Great Uniter has shown no interest in reconquering it for Police's gain. Instead, as many would know, he has focused more on keeping the desert a safer place to travel through, just as his father, King Meloray III, did for the subject of the next volume, the Peninsula. I know for a fact that I've read at least 2 of these history books, but besides the prelude, I don't know specifically which ones. Well, this one talks about Kilo Ben. It's been a long time since we've seen him. He's basically this undead skeleton guy we fought in some forest. He was being controlled by some orb. But we managed to defeat him and rescue him? Not really sure. After we defeated him, we had this vision where he said to find him. But that was so long ago, I feel like the plot has completely forgot about him. Also, Sifmon1 says Kylo Ren? No. According to Gaia, this game was made well before those movies came out. I have noticed a similarity in names myself, though. Future place, Sorry Islands and beyond. I definitely, for certain, had to have read one of those books more than once at this point. Well, let's go ahead and read this one, because I don't recognize it either. What lies beyond the borders of Plius? Immigrants from around the world gnaw at each other to get the chance to enter our sovereign land, but from where do they come? And with a history of expansion and conquest at the behest of the 4 goddesses, where does Plius go now? After the defeat of the desert dwellers in the barbaric wastes of the Plius deserts, the Great Uniter has set his gaze even further east, to the dotted isles of the Sari Islands. At the very least, this is kind of important, because we were there before, and they are very much concerned about the Great Uniter's plans to go east. Controversial in nature, the Sari Islands have repelled every single attempt all rulers in the past have made to claim them for their own. Critics have stated that it is a wasted effort, as it is beyond the sovereignty of any of the Holy Four. So why continue pushing? Perhaps the most pressing argument is the fact that the islands are just near enough to the mainland to act as a foothold to mount an invasion. The Great Uniter, Master Stochidis, would more likely than not wish to cut off any opportunity potential that terrorists would have. Thus, conquest is possibly the only solution. As of now, however, the only peoples living that far to the east are the grey living winged Urak, the demented creatures twisting the very appearance of the winged prophet. Beyond the waters lie various other countries, only known of from travelers and the stories they tell of island cities, dense, floating forests, and cavernous metropolises. Would it benefit Plius' prosperity to invite these lands into the fold? Possibly. But many would argue that we should keep what we have and block off the rest, following in the footsteps of Queen Hitora I. Ring, by any extension of all Plius, was meant to serve as a sanctuary from the outside after all. Whatever the future holds for our land and our people, the doctrines state that this is our world, and thus all should be treated as such. Perhaps it has never been about expansions or conquests, but instead broadening the horizons of our understanding of where exactly we live and what exactly is ours. You know, I just remembered another reason why I want to read these books on camera now. That book that I skipped in that other game turned out was very much relevant to an optional boss fight I wound up fighting shortly thereafter. It actually made the boss way more interesting knowing the backstory of it. Okay, well, reading his books are definitely taking a while. Not done reading them yet, but I need a break. We're going on a break. And when we come back, I'll finish reading these books. Probably getting close to ending this, so we might even be able to, shortly after, go search for this rabbit that the Queen has sent us to look for.